We're live. I'm coming to you from laying right on top of Joe Rayo's sweatshirt.
Hello,
I make a really good monogram, don't I?
You sure do.
I do. God, Joe, you need to come back. I can't do this. It's so hard to do this show without you next to me. You know.
Oh.
I mean that. It's.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Hang on. There we go. So, how was your weekend?
Boring.
Really?
I basically just vegetated this weekend.
Did you?
Although I must tell you that I put my life on the line every year during the Christmas season, going up a 20-foot ladder to put lights or string lights up along the top of the house and around the roof. And this evening we made the discovery that the lights are off, that maybe a wire broke, and that now I have to go back up there before I go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, you know what? I don't do ladders anymore. I don't do roofs. I haven't done roofs in a long time. By the way, everybody, it's Joe Rayo, Fios One News, Lower Hudson Valley, which is where he is right now because he's not here with me.
Well, you're actually Joe Cioffi. I'm Joe Rayo. I'm not in. Well, I am in the Lower Hudson Valley, but I'm not where we usually are.
Right.
And you are.
I'm Fios One News, New Jersey, and Long Island. Joe is Fios One News, Hudson Valley. Tonight, I'm all three. And this is our nightly show, so hope everybody had a great weekend. Hey, did you get to watch any of the snowstorm stuff that went on in the Carolinas and in Virginia? What'd you think?
I actually watched the press conference by the governor of North Carolina telling everybody that this is a very serious storm and that you should all stay indoors and watch the snow and don't go out unless you have to go out.
Well,
it's extremely dangerous. And
well, look, to be fair, they don't get big snows like this often, so they don't get the driving experience or the day-to-day experience. However, at least they could have used all the salt that the local municipalities up here have been using for the last week, because they were salting in New Jersey for this, apparently, from what I understand, for this storm. I mean, this has got to stop. Okay. This has really got to stop. Granted, what happened on the 15th of November happened. It's done. You can't undo it. All right? So why don't we just wait for the next storm system and deal with it when it gets here, instead of doing this ridiculous preemptive nonsense for nothing. Okay?
And they'll probably do something to the roads in advance of the rainstorm that's coming our way this weekend.
Right.
Well, in case it changes to snow or whatever.
Well, that, and there's this little thing on Thursday that's with this front that's dropping down, and then there's this weak disturbance that some models are generating a little bit of snow in a few places during Thursday afternoon that I really didn't put too much attention to. But
NAM is the only model that really is gung ho on this more than any other model.
I'm sorry, which one was gung ho?
The NAM.
The NAM. Okay, I didn't give the NAM a good look today. But this was, Joe, follow me on this and see if you and agree with me, okay?
Okay.
No, now you don't have to agree with me, but think about the fact that, all right, so November 15th for areas from about Washington, D.C., north and east, many of the areas there had really basically a historic November snowstorm. There were a lot of places that had, their biggest one-day snowfall for the month of November. There were places that had monthly snowfall records broken. Then you had, not too long after that, we had one in the Midwest, in parts of Illinois and in Iowa and in northern Missouri, that we had the same thing happen, and where we had records broken for November. Now, here we are on December 10th. So in the last 25 days, this is the third storm, the third system that has kind of pushed the envelope of records. This was an historic event for for Virginia, for interior Virginia, interior North Carolina, all-time records breaking, all-time 24-hour records. This could very well be the biggest snowstorm for the whole year for them. But the fact that we've had 3 events like this, I really am starting to wonder if this is going to be a winter that is going to be pretty active going forward, where we're going to get a lot of threats along the way.
Well, it's I would certainly not argue against that. All we need is a little blocking, and we'll have more of these types of scenarios. This one just happened to pass or skirt underneath us. It looks like now, though, Joe, that the cold air is kind of locked in up over the northern portions of Canada, and for the moment at least, it looks like we're going to be looking at near or above normal temperatures for this time of the year, maybe right on through the balance of the month, although, as you just mentioned a few moments ago, there may be a minor something that could bring a little bit of the white stuff our way come later Thursday or Thursday evening.
I also think that I kind of think that the warm-up is not going to be anything exceptional. It'll bring us back to average or above for a few days. I think there may actually be some shots of cold air along the way through next week and then maybe even going into Christmas week. I'm kind of starting to think that we may actually start trending colder again as we get closer to Christmas. I'm also thinking that around the 20th to the 22nd, somewhere in there, that I was looking at the teleconnections today. You've got a crashing East Pacific oscillation that's going to go from off the wall positive to neutral. The North Atlantic oscillation is actually slightly negative for much of the next 2 weeks, and you've got a fairly robust looking Pacific North America index in play. So I just wonder whether this warm-up is just a little bit overstated. Yeah, it's going to happen, and the rain, the system for Saturday is going to be an all-rain affair Friday night and Saturday. It won't even start as snow anywhere. But I just wonder whether this is going to be, warm days with cold shots coming in between. And then we're going to settle into another pattern toward the end of the month and into January.
Well, I don't know about you, but it's so delightful to be able to step outside and not be subjected to what I might call drippiness. The ground is hard. It's been cold for a while. It's been dry for about a week now. It's been amazing the number of dry days we've been able to string. As I noted when we were together on Friday, we hadn't strung together 5 consecutive dry days since the beginning of September. And here we're still in this dry spell. It looks like we're going to stay dry at least through Wednesday, maybe even through Thursday or Friday, depending again upon that little disturbance that comes on by during the day, Thursday or Thursday evening.
We could take a look at the NAM in a second with that. One of the things, Joe, by the way, with this rain for Friday night and Saturday, but it's going to be more for late Thursday night and Friday into Friday night, early Saturday, for the areas to our south that just got up to 2 feet of snow from Virginia southward. Now they're going to wind up with a 2 to 4 inch rainfall event with this. There's going to be some serious flooding that could possibly occur here at the end of the week in those areas to our south. From all the snow melt was the equivalent of, they got the equivalent of 2+ inches of liquid through a lot of that area. There was rain before in some of these places before it turned over to snow. And now you're going to put another 2 or 3 inches of water on top of that. That's not a good thing.
Not at all. That's kind of like what we sometimes get at the end of some of our winters. Some of the winters that we get a lot of snow, and all of a sudden we get a very sudden warming trend, and it doesn't go away gradually. It goes away all at once. And yeah, we have seen severe flooding situations up here, and they're going to certainly see that down across parts of Virginia and the Carolinas in the aftermath of what they just saw over the weekend and what they're about to see come this weekend.
By the way, I'm bringing up the. Do you have your audio turned on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure. I just heard a little feedback there. Okay, so I'm just bringing up, Joe, just speaking of the temperatures tonight, because there are some spots, temperature-wise, that are seeing some really cold numbers because of clear skies, and you've got this north wind coming straight down the Hudson Valley that in some places has dropped to under 5 miles an hour. I'm just going to... It's down to 18 right now in West Hampton and 19 in East Hampton, believe it or not. And
I do.
It's cold. I want to bring up and see if I could get a few more numbers on here and populate it a bit more. So just give me 1 second, a little more density. And, oh, come on. And I'm trying to get some more temperatures up here because it doesn't always come up fast enough. All right, so, yeah, I mean, you've got some upper teens. It's mostly low 20s across northern New Jersey. I'm seeing just there's only a couple of numbers in the Hudson Valley reporting right now. Montgomery is 21, Newburgh 27, and Monticello is 21, and it looks like Poughkeepsie's 23. But I bet you there are a lot of pockets there in the valleys where you got temperatures down in the upper teens already.
Well, the eastern Long Island certainly is not a surprise because, as we've seen in the Pine Barrens, not only out there but also in parts of central New Jersey, they drop like a rock.
Oh yeah, Toms River's 19 right now in New Jersey. Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
And it is a clear night, and it's need I say it's a cold night? It's a calm night, not much wind at all. So, very, very good radiational conditions going on right across the area here. I see William Hubert, one of our viewers, saying it's 26 where he is, and I'm sure that there are many places that are cold tonight.
Joe, you got the chat. You're able to see the chat, so you're at an advantage. So if you see any, you folks, folks watching on Facebook tonight, share your questions. Joe, you can read the questions out and go from there. I'm going to pull up the new NAM just to see how much of it we have, which is probably not out far enough yet. It's out to 57 hours, but get a little bit wider here. So you're starting to see at this point, because this takes us into Thursday morning. You know what? I'll go to the run from late this afternoon. So there's that area of snow that it kind of drops into Pennsylvania and extends it into New Jersey. Actually, as it even is rain in parts of South Jersey. The next high building down into New Hampshire. So now you got this system coming out of the southern plains, and this is going to be our rain producer. But it doesn't look like any of that rain's going to get here until sometime late Friday night, in my opinion.
Well, the Foose is out, the NAM Foose from 0Z. And for Thursday morning, they still have us dry. They have the vertical motion going above zero. This kind of implies maybe some high cloudiness, at least to kick off the day on Thursday. And they have a thickness in the at LaGuardia of 534, a boundary, a T1 of 99,
right,
96 at T3, and 97 at T5. So it's still marginally cold, but that cold is not going to be anywhere near here when the full thrust of the precipitation arrives.
Right.
Again, as you just pointed out, Friday night and into Saturday.
Right. The system for Thursday I have out to 66 hours now, which takes us into Thursday afternoon. Actually does show a couple of snow showers in North Jersey on this run. You know what it is, Joe? You got this cold high, and there's an onshore flow that develops, so that's probably why it's generating this really light precip on Thursday. So it certainly implies that we're probably going to have clouds increasing here at the very least on Thursday. Rather than having it being another day of sunshine. So we're probably going to have to do a little forecast adjustment here if that winds up holding true.
Yeah, it looks like to me, Joe, is that the atmosphere on Thursday is reacting to that little push of somewhat milder air that's off to our south and west, kind of like a mini warm front, which probably will move through with cloud cover, maybe with some spotty precipitation. But then I think that we actually may go back into a clearing trend either late Thursday or early Friday night.
Right, I agree with you on that, yes.
And then the main thrust of the rain comes our way, still stuck out over the Midwest, as I see on your map there for 66 hours. That would be for early on, during the midday hours of Thursday.
Right. All right, so you know what? I'm going to switch over to the parallel GFS, and we'll take a look at this from late this afternoon as we go into Friday. So the rain gets actually close by Friday evening, but it's still dry here until probably during the hours approaching midnight. And the main low, Joe, goes to our west, but it's going to be another one of these occluded lows, and you're going to have a low that forms at the point of occlusion. Also, because the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, is somewhat negative, that low is probably only going to get so far north when the whole system just kind of translates eastward. But it does have it raining here for much of Saturday, and then maybe weather conditions may try to start to improve a little bit on Sunday, the way it's looking. And the rainfall amounts are pretty substantial. I mean, I think this should be an inch, inch and a half rain producer, but you can also see the bigger amounts as you go down into the Carolinas. The parallel is a little bit less robust with those bigger amounts than the regular GFS, which has 2-3 inch rain amounts in that whole area.
And you can see, look at that stripe, that purple stripe. That's where the really heavy duty rain is on this particular map. And thankfully that's not going to hit us, but it looks like it is going to get a part of the coastline, the coastal plain of the Carolinas, which saw, I think, more rain than snow anyway this past weekend.
Yes, that they did. Anywhere, if you were, in fact, the line was probably, I've got the map here of the snow totals, Joe. If you go, it was a sharp cutoff both on the south and north side. If you were, Charlotte wound up being just outside the main snow area by a handful of miles, and Raleigh wound up just inside that 4 to 6 inch zone. And then, of course, you start going north and west toward Greensboro. Then you started to get into some pretty hefty amounts up in that area. I've got a close up here if it loads correctly. There it comes. Let's see. All right, so here are the snow amounts, in and around Raleigh, where the numbers were, you start to go south and east of Raleigh, Joe. The numbers were generally under 5 inches, and they tail off pretty rapidly. But on the other hand, you head up toward Durham, and you start picking up. This is where you start to get numbers 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 inches as you go north and west, and then you go further north and west toward Burlington, North Carolina, and then out over toward Winston-Salem and Greensboro. This is where you got double-digit amounts just about everywhere. And those double-digit amounts did also extend into parts of a good chunk of southwestern Virginia. Richmond, I think, got 11 inches. I think it was their second biggest snowfall, 24-hour single-event snowfall on record, going back to 1903. Either was it 08 or 03? I got to write these things down. But going back to 1900 something, and again, just absolutely unprecedented numbers for so early in the month of December. And this could be their biggest snowstorm of the whole winter.
And we were talking when we were together last week about the what I call the 3-inch rule in Central Park, about how if 3 inches, if less than 3 inches of snow fell in Central Park during the month of December, then it would be a below normal snow year, at least for Central Park. And the interesting thing about that, Joe, is that if you go back over the last 30 years, and 30 years is considered to be a long range or long-term set of records, the percentage of when this happens is 81.3%. However, over the last 6 winters, in the last 6 winters, 3 of those 6 winters have had snowfall totals less than 3 inches, in fact, much less than 3 inches. In fact, in one case it was just a trace, another case was 1 inch, another case was 0.4 of an inch. 3 out of those last 6 winters we had those kind of numbers in December, and they still ended up with above normal snowfall in Central Park. In fact, the last 6 winters have seen above normal snowfall in Central Park. I don't know how many other years have had, other periods in the 150-plus year record has had that. 6 consecutive.
Long Island for Brookhaven Labs. So it's 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 16, 16. It's 6, but it's also, if you take out 11 and 12, you have to go back to 07, 08 for your last below normal year. So it's actually 9 out of the last 10. And if you go back, and I did go back and look, if you go back to look at Central Park's records, okay, and if you use, you got to, in my view, to make it just kind of even, if you're going to look at the whole 160 years or whatever it is, if you're going to use the whole 160 years, I would rather use the 160-year average, which for Central Park is probably somewhere close to 29 inches for the season, okay? But if you use the 29 inches, all right, there has never been a stretch like this where you've gotten 6 out of 7 or 9 out of 10. I think if you go back, you'll be hard pressed to find 3 out of 4 that happened maybe a couple of times, but that was about it. We're in some kind of. I honestly believe that the prevalence of 1970 to 2000, when 25 of the 30 winters were below average, okay, kind of skews that December indicator a bit, okay, because we had so many below average years. That seemed to be sort of like the grand scheme of that 30-year period. But now we're in this 18-year period where we're at the other end of that extreme, and it just seems to me like we're making up for that void that occurred in the prior 30 years. I mean, doesn't that make sense? I mean, that kind of makes sense to me.
You look at December of 2008, 6 inches. December of 2009, 12.4 inches. This is just the 1 month, December. Right. Look at December 2010, 20.1 inches of snow in that 1 month. And when you and I were growing up, we often thought about December as the throwaway month. Like, oh,
never happened. It hardly ever happened. Go look between 1970 and 2000. You'll find very, very few. In fact, the average snowfall when they did those 30-year means, I think for the month of December, came out to like 2 inches for that 30-year period, if I recall. Because
now the 30-year average now, they have 0.3 for November. December is now up to 4.8 for snow,
and that still is good. That's going to go higher, by the way, when we take out the 90s.
Right.
And we go to the next. When we take out. So in 2020. The 30-year average will go from 1990 to 2020. So when we take out the 80s, which was a snowless decade, that number is going to go up even more. But go on.
It's set 4.8 for December, 7 inches for January. Snowiest month, as it always has been, February 9.2. Then we make a very big drop. March 3.9 and April 0.6 for 0.6, giving you a total. This is now based upon the old 30-year records, 25.8 inches for Central Park for snowfall, annual snowfall. Which is interesting. That will probably go up when we wipe out the 80s, the decade of the 80s.
Look at also not only December, but look at March, because March, in the last 18 years, all months have benefited. Because when they do the recalculations, you're going to find that January is going to wind up being the snowiest month now. And it's going to be a double-digit snowy month along with February. They're going to be very close. March is going to go up from the old 30-year average, and December is going to go way up. So I think you're going to see the normal probably skew up very close to 30 for New York City. And for Long Island, especially for Suffolk County, that number is going to skew up close to between 35 and 40.
I wouldn't doubt it, especially if you're out there in the Suffolk County area, and you've had quite a few big winters over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Last year was 75 inches for me.
Oh,
it was the second.
I live up here in Putnam County, the supposed zone of, snow zone. You've beaten me, I think, every year for the last 5 years.
It's really kind of, isn't that odd? Because you always thought when we were growing up, you wanted to live either somewhere in the Hudson Valley or you wanted to live in Sparta, in northwest New Jersey. And, it's ever since, I don't know what happened in the year 2000, but somebody flipped the switch someplace. And, Long Island has really become this area's new Buffalo in a lot of ways. That, by the way, that's 75 inches. Is the third highest, all right? It's not even the second highest. It's either the third or the fourth. It might be the third or the fourth highest, but it's at least the third highest. 2000, I want to say 20. My favorite winter, which I think was 2002, 23, which was what I always called the Suffolk County winter. I think that winter was number 2, and that's at 78. Okay. And then the 95-96 winter, where I got 96 inches for the whole winter, capped off by 16 inches in the month of April. Okay, you know, for 2 snowstorms in April that I missed both of, but no, that's another story. But yeah, it's really been very interesting how the whole snow profile around here has changed from when we were kids.
Now, where does Daniel Kirby live?
He is in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Western Virginia, and he got a foot.
Now that's why he says we average well over 100 inches of snow during a normal winter.
Well, he's up. He's got elevation where he is. He's up.
Right.
He's up. I forgot what he told me if he was 1,000 feet or 15. What were you, 1,500 feet, Daniel? I forget. I hope you're not much higher than that because the air gets thin.
That would make some sense.
Yeah. I can believe it though, having driven down 81 recently to see, you know, forgetting how high some of those, you know, those mountaintops go. I'm not at all surprised, but it's just.
Now he says 3,500.
He's 3,500 feet up.
Right. That's what.
Oh, okay.
I'm
by the
assuming
way,
that's 3,500 feet. You just put the number 3,500. So
Joe, you also got to remember too one other thing. It's also very interesting how if you think back to the period with a few exceptions, but only a few, from 1970 to 2000. If you were a forecaster, if you forecasted everything to change to rain, let's say you decided at every single storm you're going to forecast, I'm going to make it snow changing to rain, or going to say we don't see a flake or an ice pellet because it passes too far to the south, you would have been right most of the time. But if you did that between 2000 and today, you would have probably been burned a lot of times because it's almost as if the whole profile of how these storms have evolved in the last 17 or 18 years has really kind of changed from what it was in the prior 30.
Right. And this is such a rare, you know, it always seems like we always get a part of the action, so to speak. So it was kind of interesting just to be able to sit on the sidelines and see somebody else get clobbered.
Yeah.
As was the case this past weekend.
Well, and also, you know, I tell young, you know, the up and coming young forecasters, this is good. You know, this is a good thing to do, to look at an area that's nearby but outside your normal zone of coverage, and give it a whirl. Try to forecast for those areas so that you don't really know too much about, and you're not really too familiar with the local climate, because at least you're going to be doing it from a sense of objectivity. Or at least you're going to try to do it with a sense of objectivity, and it's good training. This is also, I think it's, you know, I find it a very good forecasting experience on my own, because, you know, it's kind of like putting myself to the test to see how well I can do in an area where I don't have as much skin in the game. If you understand, you know, if you know what I'm getting at here.
Yeah. Well, now we're coming up on we're at 9:51. So before we close out for tonight, we'll be back together again tomorrow for one night.
Right.
And you're going to be away on Wednesday.
Yes, but it turns out, I'm glad you reminded me. I was supposed to.
I'm your agent, Joe. I'm your press agent.
I understand. The William Morris Agency could do. I could.
You could be in the Babylon Library, which I do believe last I checked was.
Yeah, no. There's been a change. They had to cancel out. So
really?
Yes. So
they would cancel you out, Joe?
Yes, it's really, you know, it's just kind of funny that I've done so many library talks over the last couple of years. I've been canceled twice, and both times I've been canceled by the Babylon Library. I'm not you know, it's perfectly fine. This stuff sort of happens. I just thought it was an odd coincidence, but
you're still going to take. You're still going to take.
Yeah, we're going to try and reschedule it for another time, and I'm still going to take the day off because I'm not going to not take a day off. So I will try and Skype in, and I'll show you what you have to do to set it up tomorrow. All right. So I got to go at the top of the hour with the FiOS 1 News, Long Island and New Jersey, and Hudson Valley.
Yes. I'll be back with Hudson Valley tomorrow, and I'll be back with you tomorrow, and I'll be all by my lonesome on Wednesday. Maybe we'll be able to do this by remote control on Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right, Joe. Have a great night. Thanks for for jumping in on your day off. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, guy.
Take care. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight on our Facebook show, the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Most nights at 9:20 Eastern Time, and of course, tune in tomorrow morning for Brian Fitzgerald and Jeff Banson, Brittany Borer and Addison Green at midday, and Joe and I tomorrow evening right here on FiOS 1 News. Good night, everybody.
Night.